everyone! I just wanted to do a quick pattern review for you all. I used the Simplicity 5006 Mrs. Lingerie for the corset that I made. And this is the pattern. And so this is the corset right here. Overall, this pattern was very easy to use and understand. The instructions were very clear. There wasn't a lot of issues with it. The only part that I can't really attest to is the back underlap and the edge finishings, so like up here along the edge and the bottom. I can't really attest to those because I did them differently or didn't do them at all, but I will talk about that a little bit later. I bought this pattern a few years ago when I was a little bit on the skinnier side. So instead of using the 5/8 seam allowance that you're directed to in the pattern, I used 3/8 everywhere except for the facing, just because it didn't need to happen on the facing. That gave me the extra wiggle room that I needed to be able to fit into it properly. After I made those adjustments though, after I let that seam allowance out a little bit, the bust ended up being a little bit too big. So I had to take that in about a 1/4 inch here and a 1/2 inch here on each side. So that helped everything fit a little bit better because it was gaping really bad. On the mock-up version of this that I made, I used the regular boning that you can get from like Joann's or wherever that comes with the casing already in it. Let me see if I have some real quick. Yeah, so this is the stuff that I used. It's got the casing already pre-made and the boning's pretty small. I used this on the mock-up, but on the actual corset that I made that I'm wearing now, I actually used zip ties, and they're big zip ties, like much bigger. This was a lot cheaper than this, a lot cheaper. And it's quite a bit thicker, so it holds up a little bit better, so I really like this. And so since I did use this instead of using the stuff that came with the pre-made casing, I had to make my own casing, and I just did that out of ribbon. So I bought a, I believe 5/8 ribbon, because this is about 1/2 inch, and this without the casing is about a 1/4 inch, so quite different. So I got about a 5/8 inch ribbon to do the casing with this on. I don't think I have any more of that. And I just sewed that ribbon straight to the corset and then slid this right on in, and worked really well, and it took away some of the bulk that a casing would have given. Oh, and by the way, I used a duck canvas for the corset that I'm wearing. It's pretty cheap. It's like in the home decor section at Joann's. It's 100% cotton, and it's pretty sturdy, so it holds up nicely. Okay, as for the underlap, I just omitted that entirely because I didn't feel like I needed it. Just because instead of having an underlap, I wanted to have a full slip underneath, because corsets don't exactly wash very easily, so they're not really supposed to touch your skin to help avoid getting all the oils and sweat and everything from your skin on it. I just made a slip to go underneath the entire corset. And so I'll be able to wash the slip instead of the corset. The slip is just a really simple tube top. So this is the slip actually, and I didn't shape it or anything to go with the corset like I should have, but this is just supposed to be a quick and dirty, you know, get it done so I can start wearing it. It's just a knit fabric sewn in a circle, and I did put some of this at the top edge just to help it kind of retain its shape a little bit and to give it some grip so it doesn't slip all over the place. The last thing that I did differently from the pattern's instructions was the edge finishing. So at the top right here and at the bottom down here, the pattern wanted a different type of lace than what I have. They wanted a little bit of a thinner elastic lace, like a lingerie lace or something like that. But They had, I think, two different methods of attaching that. One where the scalloped edge of the lace can be seen coming out from the top. The other one where it's just kind of encasing the raw edge. And they wanted you to do the same thing for the bottom, one of those two methods. So what I did instead is I just serged my lace right on top because it worked for me. And due to the nature of the lace, I don't really think you can tell all that much that it's serged on, and I think it looks pretty nice. As for the bottom, I took a long strip of the fabric that I made the corset out of, and I basically made a double fold bias tape out of that and did the edge, except I didn't actually cut it on the bias, which I should have, and you definitely should do if you're gonna do this. But anyway, the only other thing that the pattern called for was a little tiny bow to go right here, but I didn't want the bow, so I didn't do it. But I glimpsed at the instructions and it looked pretty simple to put together, so that shouldn't be a huge deal if you want to do it. So the takeaway is that this pattern is actually really easy for your first time making a corset. I would rate myself as about an intermediate-ish seamstress, but I've never made a corset before. However, I think that even if I didn't have a lot of sewing experience, this corset would still be fairly easy to make. It took me about a day, maybe a day and a half, to make the whole thing start to finish, like the first run through. So that would be the mock-up actually, and then this one. So the mock-up probably took about a day and a half, and then the final product, this probably took a day. So it really wasn't all that difficult. But in the future, I will try to do a better job of keeping track of my time so I can give y'all a better estimate of about how long the patterns take to make. But anyway, let me know what you think down in the comments.